So welcome everyone. I see 150 participants live. Great to have you all here today. Present on our webinar, how to get the most out of your EcoVadis assessment. Let's move towards the next slide. And we can start with a short introduction from our side. I can kick it off from my side. My name is Robert Smith. I'm the commercial lead at Nexio Projects. Maybe a familiar face for some of the participants today, since I've hosted already a couple of webinars on the topic of EcoVadis in the past. My role within Nexio Projects is that I'm, in most cases, the first point of contact for potential partners and clients on how we can best link our support services as Nexio Projects, so as a sustainability consultancy firm and also the global partner of EcoVadis, to the needs of our partners and clients. I'm Dutch, already working for 3 years actually this month for Nexio Project, and excited to host today's webinar for you and with me. Maybe then the introduction towards you, Laura.
Yes, thank you, Rob. So I'm Laura van den Born. Similar to Rob, I am Dutch as well, born and raised in the Netherlands and working and living in Rotterdam, where Nexio Projects is also based. I am an ESG analyst at Nexio Projects since the beginning of this year. And what this basically means is that where Rob basically connects the client's needs to our services, I step in there after the client is on board, and we help the clients with all of the different projects. This can be EcoVadis projects, so assessment completions, reviews, insights reports, all of that, but also different services such as B Corp or the UNGC or strategic gap analysis. And I'm very excited to host this webinar together with Rob.
Super. I see still there are some questions in the chat actually in the meantime. Please use the comment box so that we can then tackle them towards the end. So today's agenda, our point of view. So we will guide you through how we as Nexio Projects and EcoVadis see sustainability, view sustainability, the EcoVadis model. So we do a deep dive into the EcoVadis methodology and how you can master the methodology as an organization towards your upcoming assessments. We will guide you through the 360 watch. And as a final one, we will go to the understanding the results. So obviously, if you go through an EcoVadis assessment as an organization, you'll receive results, feedback from EcoVadis. How can you work towards improvement and also understand all the ins and outs from the feedback from EcoVadis. And as we mentioned already, towards the end of the webinar, there's time for a Q&A where we will answer live, hopefully all your questions that you have with regards to the EcoVadis methodology and assessment. Introduction, very short, one step back. We give you a short introduction about Nexio Projects. So as we mentioned already in the beginning, we are an international sustainability consultancy firm who are operating globally in more than 25 countries. Other than that, Nexio Projects is known for their key partners. So EcoVadis is one of our, and actually our biggest partner. So we are, as Nexio, their global and certified consultancy partner, which means that we are helping their clients with understanding the EcoVadis methodology and making sure that their sustainability performance is as good reflected as possible into their EcoVadis questionnaire. Other key partnerships that we have is, for example, with B Corp, also a sustainability rating from the United Kingdom, and Natural Capital Partners. Obviously, the focus for today is on EcoVadis, but just one step back to also very shortly explain the company that Laura and myself are working for.
So then I will start with the EcoVadis. Taking a step back, I do imagine that a lot of you are already clients of EcoVadis, already use EcoVadis, but to take a step back and to go a bit more into how EcoVadis works. I first would like to elaborate a bit more on how EcoVadis actually envisions sustainability. And this is through 4 different pillars, actually 5, because general is also one of them. But 4 here on the slide mentioned are environment, labor and human rights, ethics, and sustainable procurement. Under every pillar, you see different topics, and we refer to them as the activated criteria for all the pillars. And basically, these are the topics or the issues that you will receive your questions on in your EcoVadis questionnaire. And the activated criteria are based on your company's industry, the size, and the location. And you can see that environment and labor and human rights are typically the ones with the most topics, and ethics and sustainable procurement are a bit smaller in terms of activated criteria. However, this does not mean, of course, that these are more or less important than one or the other. Then moving on to dive a bit more into the activated criteria specifically. Rob, if you can move to the next slide, please. Yes, perfect. Thank you. To reiterate where you can find your activated criteria. So on your EcoVadis platform, you have the button My Performance, which you can see on the top left. There you can see which industry your company is based in. When you click on that industry, you will come to the page where you see all your activated criteria for your industry. So here we have an example of Nexio Projects. And we see the activated criteria here that are energy consumption and GHG emissions, materials, chemicals and waste, and environmental services and advocacy. So these are the ones that EcoVadis will get, that Nexio Projects will get questions on in their questionnaire. And I think what's super nice to mention actually is that if you're interested in knowing a bit more on why this topic is relevant for your industry, you can click on the activated criteria, and a drop-down menu will open and you see the definition and also the industry issues that are linked to this activated criteria, just for you to get a bit more of context, to understand a bit better, and also how you as a company basically stand within your industry. So I always advise to basically go through it to get a bit more context and also to help you fill in your questionnaire. Then moving on, as I mentioned previously, your activated criteria are dependent on your company's industry and your size and your location. So here we just see a comparison of the two different industries, namely freight transport by roads and the consulting services. And you can see that per pillar, there are different material topics activated by EcoVadis. So for environment, labor, human rights, ethics, and sustainable procurement, they are a bit different. However, it is good to note that, especially for labor and human rights and sustainable procurement, the activated criteria are quite similar for every industry and company size and location, because, well, of course, labor and human rights issues are relevant for each company, and the same with supplier environmental and supplier and social practices. So just to be aware of that, it differs per company and therefore affects your questionnaire differently. Then moving on to how EcoVadis actually assesses your, how EcoVadis assesses your assessment. So basically there is the, EcoVadis refers to the Sustainability Management System, shortened to SMS. And this is what EcoVadis really wants to see. And this means that there are 7 different management indicators. Throwing a lot of terms here, I'm sorry for that, but it will all become clear in the next few minutes, I hope. But the 7 management indicators are policies, endorsements, measures, certifications, coverage, reporting, and the 360 watch, which you can see on this slide. And in short, what EcoVadis means by the sustainability management system is that EcoVadis wants to see really a defined strategy with objectives, and that a company then selects actions to reach those objectives, and then also tracks performance of your objectives. And that all combined forms your sustainability management system. And of course, EcoVadis is evidence-based. So it's the most important thing is that you have actually documents to prove that you have like set this strategy, these objectives, the actions, and the reporting. So as you can prove it, you will have this strong sustainability management system in place. And we can quickly go over the different indicators that are mentioned on the slides. So starting with policies, this really includes your stance on the subject and your objective to reach those your strategy. And what EcoVadis really wants to see here are SMART targets, and SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. And then there's also the endorsements that counts for the 25% of policies. And this is basically external CSR initiatives and principles, such as the United Nations Global Compact, the Sustainable Development Goals, and sustainability reports. That's also falls under endorsements. And then you have the 40% of actions. And a big chunk of this is the measures part. And this is basically the actions that are implemented to reach your objectives. And then another part is the certifications, of which ISO is a very important one. EcoVadis really values ISO certifications. So for example, ISO 40001. And then you also have coverage. And this one is specifically interesting for group assessments. So not only for, not for entity assessments, which is, yeah, as the name says, one entity, but a group assessment covering multiple entities. Because if you do a group assessment, EcoVadis would like to see basically the level of deployment or dissemination of actions and certifications across your different entities. So how well are your actions actually covered in your entities and not just by one or the other entity. And then the final one is 35% of results. And a big part of this is reporting. So if you have KPIs, how you track your KPIs and how you also share your KPIs internally or externally. And another part is the 360 watch, which I will definitely dive in a bit more later. So don't worry about that. I will explain it in a bit.
Maybe to summarize, Laura, so what you were saying in the last slide with regards to materiality comparison, this actually means that every questionnaire is tailored to different companies based on their industry. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Based on the industry and also the company size and the location. Yeah, so every questionnaire is different.
Yeah, and then looking at this slide, this is a very important one actually, which explains how EcoVadis is rating your sustainability performance. So as Laura was saying, so this is actually with those two different elements here is how EcoVadis views your sustainability management system. So absolutely crucial slide. And maybe question to you, Laura, viewing this slide, where would you see where the biggest challenges are lying for organizations on the three different pillars?
That's an important though difficult question. I think it really depends on every company, any industry. It's super context dependent on what companies struggle with, and I think EcoVadis really wants to see proof for every one of those. So for the policies, actions, and the results, which ties it all together in a sustainability management system. But if I were to answer your question based on my experience, I would say policies or reporting. I'm a bit in doubt between those two, mostly because policies need to contain quantitative targets as well as qualitative targets. And we see often that quantitative targets are missing, which don't make them a comprehensive policy. Mm-hmm. And the same for reporting. Often we hear from our clients that they do track a lot or they do know a lot about what's happening in the company, but it's just not reported in an overarching dashboard, so to say. Yeah. So I would say one of these two, but it's super context dependent per company and industry.
It was also a tricky question.
It is.
So maybe we can move to the next slide, where we can actually ask the audience through a poll, where you will see the poll popping into your screen right now. Which of these elements do you find the most challenging? So we obviously have the three different options here of policies, which Laura just explained. So how did you create these policies for your organization with strong targets, quantitative and qualitative and smart for your organization? The actions, which actions are you taking based on the policies that you developed as an organization, and reporting, how do you report on the actions that you took as an organization? So yeah, I see already more than 100 answers coming in. So maybe we can wait a couple of more seconds before I can actually share the results with you. I see the final answers coming in. Thank you so much for your engagement. I see 140 people voted. So I will end the poll now and actually share the results with you, where you will see that almost 50% struggles the most with reporting, And yeah, it's actually quite, the same results between the policies and the action. So definitely interesting insights here, but where we see by far that most companies are struggling with finding the right framework or the right methodology or the right tools to start reporting also on their sustainability management system. The 360 watch. Then back to you, Laura.
Yes, thank you. Indeed, moving on. As I just mentioned, 360 watch is part of the 35% the results of the assessment methodology. And it's basically, the 360 watch is basically a way for EcoVadis to scan all the publicly available information on companies. And it applies to all companies. So no company is exempt from the 360 watch, which might sound a bit scary in that way. Rob, if you can move on to the next slide. Yeah, thank you. So actually, it's kind of a big item when it comes to EcoVadis, especially when it comes to group assessments, because it can have quite a big impact on your final score. And as I just mentioned, EcoVadis basically scans the internet, scans all public information on your company. And what they then look for is both negative and positive news or publications. So negative news publications can be if a company has received a fine for spillage, or if a company was involved in any corruption cases. And the good news is that they also scan for positive news publications, which can be, for example, awards or top rankings or certain partnerships with, like, for example, with NGOs. And based on this information, based on this scan by EcoVadis, EcoVadis decides whether points should be reduced from your score or added to your score. And so that's the impact part of this slide. And based on the news, this can be based on the positive news, it can be 5.25 points on top of your score, or based on negative news, EcoVadis can reduce your score by 5.25 as well, or 10.5 or 15.75. But it really depends on the type of news they find. And in terms of the time frame of the news, this means this implies basically how long the positive or the negative news will influence your score. So you can see that especially corruption and anti-competitive practices have a big and lasting impact, namely 7 and 10 years. And it's here it's important to say that that EcoVadis bases this time frame on when the violations actually occurred. So not the publication date of any article or any news publication, but when it actually occurred. And we do know that this is kind of a tricky topic. So if you have any questions, please feel free to add this in the chat box, and we will definitely come back to you with more insights on this later. But just to cover the basics for now. Then moving on to the next slides, just a small reiteration of basically the sources that EcoVadis uses to screen the internet. So that's administration, compliance databases, specialized press, Caesar network, NGOs, trade unions, and internal organizations. And here I must say that actually EcoVadis has published quite a useful resource on your EcoVadis platform. So it's available on every EcoVadis platform. And it's called the EcoVadis 360 Watch, a key component of the assessment methodology. It's a PDF file. And here EcoVadis breaks down into more of the specific parts of the EcoVadis methodology. So also this one, for example, where the screening comes from, if you're interested to know more about what sources they look for and how this affects your score. So definitely check it out on your EcoVadis platform if you want to know a bit more on it as well. But still, if you have any questions, of course, we're here to answer them. Then moving on to the next slide, which is basically a visual representation of the scores and their impact. So as I told you, it can have either a positive impact of plus 5.25, for example, for multiple recognized sustainability management practices or awards. That would give them EcoVadis a reason for them to give you this positive score. Also, it can be the case that it's a neutral case, so that news has been found, but it doesn't affect your score negatively or positively. And then there's 3 options in which the news or publications can have a negative score on your negative impact on your score. And I must say that this is calculated. So as I mentioned, it's calculated based on different news items, but it also takes into account your company's size and industry, for example. So basically, to give you an example here, for example, a 10,000 euro fine for an oil spillage for a small or medium-sized company might have a different impact than for an extra or a large company, basically due to turnover and to size. So it's good to be aware of the differences here. I can also say that all the different negative news items, if EcoVadis finds several different negative news items, this will not per se give a negative impact per news item, but EcoVadis basically adds them up and then base the reduction on that. So it can be like an averaged negative impact, so to say. Yeah, that was it from my side on the 360 watch. Then moving on to the best practices, the common document warnings. I will go through this a bit more quickly because I can just mention them quickly. Starting off with documents created on purpose. So basically, we really want to urge you to use documents that are already in place and clearly implemented in your company. So please do not create documents specifically for EcoVadis or for the EcoVadis assessment, because EcoVadis can see when documents are created. So we advise to do not create documents shorter than 1.5 months, so 6 weeks time frame of your submission, to really make sure that these documents, for example, your policies or procedures, are really integrated into your business. So it's really a true reflection of your business. However, what I must note here is what you can do before your assessment within like the 6 weeks time frame is to review your documentation. So for example, if you already had documents in place and you want to review your targets, for example, in your policies, you can do that because that's more like an optimization to make sure that it reflects the reality of your company, but do not create any new documents. And the next one is about obsolete information. With this, we basically mean that policies or actions can not be older than 8 years old. Reporting cannot be older than 2 years old. And EcoVadis will not accept documents that are older than the 8 or 2 years. Then about pictures, we do come across pictures quite often in our clients' EcoVadis assessments, but they are not considered good evidence because EcoVadis usually or preferably looks for actual procedures, for example, or policies. However, sometimes they can be accepted. For example, if you have a screenshot of an intranet page, which, for example, shows amount of trainings you give to your employees, which is really like an internal web page that you cannot extract any documents from, then a screenshot might be a valid document to use, but we still advise against it in general. Then moving on to out of scope documents, really straightforward, but make sure that the documents you upload for your assessment actually answer the questions that you want to answer with this document. Otherwise, it might get rejected as well. Then plagiarism, also quite straightforward, but please use your own documents because EcoVadis can see if it's not your own, and that would be that would cause a rejection of your document as well. And then the amount of documents, so the limit is still 55 documents. However, there are some changes coming, which we elaborate on in the next slides. And it's kind of an important change coming, which will impact all companies. So it's good to pay extra attention here, maybe. So the maximum of 55 documents that still count. That's nothing new. However, EcoVadis will become stricter with the merging or the combining of documents from the beginning of 2023. There is no hard deadline or hard date set at this point, but we do know, and EcoVadis has confirmed that it will be the beginning of 2023. So it's very good to already be aware of this and to already start organizing your assessment to match these new guidelines. And basically, so the change is that EcoVadis doesn't want to see combined documents anymore in principle. And the reason for this is, in short, to to incentivize companies to create a really like a strong sustainability management system and document structure. So basically to really have this centralized overview of your policies, procedures, and your reporting for your entity or for your different entities, and to not have the need to combine all different documents from here and there. It's good to focus on the positive here and to see what can still be merged from what we know right now, and that is collections of certificates for example, multiple operational sites. So if different sites have the ISO 14001 certificate, for example, then this can definitely still be merged, and the same accounts for other certificates. Another thing that's still allowed to merge is consolidated overviews of KPIs, which can also cover multiple operational sites, for example. So this could be an Excel sheet containing a summary of the KPIs with, for example, a breakdown of each entity's data. And what's also still allowed is past merged documents. And with this, they mean that if you have used a merged document in a previous assessment and you're reusing this document for another assessment, then you can still use that merged document. Then to give you a bit of advice on how to approach this new guideline, basically, we see from our clients, from the top performing clients, that they have like formalized consolidated reports in place. So this can be sustainability reports, annual reports that contain a lot of data and that can be linked to answering multiple questions. So if we were to give you a bit of advice on how to prioritize selecting documents for your assessment, we really urge you to look at those broader purpose documents, which could be a sustainability report. And besides that, to also really balance the amount of information for all the three indicators. So for policies, actions, and reporting. So really try to see if you can have this consolidated environmental policy and consolidated labor and rights, human rights policy, for example. And the same with operating procedures. See if there's like possibility for you to centralize these procedures and centralize operating procedures. And the same for the KPIs. Here we always suggest to create a KPI dashboard, as I mentioned previously as well, potentially with your different sites in there. So you have this centralized overview as well. And another hint or another bit of advice we also want to give is to also really take into account your most material issues, which we mentioned in the beginning of this presentation. So see what's really important, see what's of high priority for your company, for your industry. And if you need to make choices in your documents because you're not there yet with your centralized overview and your centralized sustainability management system, then we advise you to make choices based on the material topics and the highest activated criteria. Also on this topic, EcoVadis has published a new report under the useful resources part of your platform. So please make sure to check it out as well, because it dives a bit deeper into all of these topics that I just went over fairly quickly. And they also give a bit more guidance on why they established these new guidelines and what is not allowed anymore to use in your coming assessments from the beginning of 2023 onwards. And with that, I'll pass it on to Robert.
Yeah, super. So obviously the title of the webinar is to get the most out of your EcoVadis assessment. And to do that, it's absolutely crucial to also understand the results and the feedback from EcoVadis. From 2023 onwards, the medal system or the scoring system of EcoVadis will change. So 2 years ago, we had the same situation where bronze started, for example, at 45, and then they changed it to 47, and the whole scale moved up a bit. Now, 2 years later, so from the beginning of 2023 onwards, the same will happen. So you will be rewarded as an organization with a bronze medal if you score 50 points or higher. Now, there are obviously many questions. If I still submit my assessment in 2022, do I still fall into the 2022 medal scale? Could be, if EcoVadis is very fast and before Christmas or New Year's Eve they come back with your score, then the answer is yes. But most probably, if you submit now or if you submitted your assessment very recently, and your score will be published in 2023, then you will fall into the new EcoVadis medal scoring system, which is the line that is underneath, obviously. So I just wanted to give you obviously this heads up from as an EcoVadis partner that this new scoring system is coming up. Again, we are more than happy to answer any questions on this towards the end in the live Q&A. As I said, understanding your scorecard is absolutely crucial. So what we see here are a lot of different things. So let's take it step by step. You see your score as an organization, how EcoVadis rated you in your assessment. So on the left side, you see your overall score. So what you will see, for example, here is it's 58, which would mean in the new scoring system, is that you will still fall into the bronze category. So this company would score, if they would achieve their medal or their scoring in 2023, a bronze medal. And here you see on the different pillars on EcoVadis, how EcoVadis views sustainability, how you performed as an organization, the pillars that Laura explained in the beginning of the webinar. So you see that this company scored 70 out of 100 on environment, 50 out of 100 on labor human rights, etc., etc. Furthermore, you see this black stripe, this black dash in the scorecard. That means the industry average. So you are scoring better than the average that you see here reflected in the scorecard. Furthermore, also what Laura explained is with regards to materiality and the different types of questionnaires that you're receiving as an organization, there's a different weight on each pillar based on the industry your organization is operating in. So for example, from a Nexio Projects perspective, as a consultancy firm, we have almost no to 1 dot on sustainable procurement, no way to maybe 1 dot on sustainable procurement, and a lot of weight on labor and human rights. But as a manufacturing firm, it's obviously totally different. So here you see the weight per pillar that brings you obviously to the overall score in the end. Furthermore, you see the colors where you see that the overall score is in the stage of confirmed, and this is towards advanced. And if you go from 75 plus, then it will get you towards the outstanding result. Furthermore, in the platform, you will see an element with your strengths as an organization. So you see different examples on the policies and the actions where EcoVadis identified different strengths. Please know that these strengths are rated in a moment in time. The moment that you submitted your EcoVadis assessment does not automatically mean that these strengths will stay strengths. It is very important to keep your strengths up to date, or even improve your strength even further to make sure that they will be rated again as a plus in your next assessment. Otherwise, they will turn into an improvement area, which you will see also in the next slide. So here again, we're on this slide with the strengths, and now we move towards the improvement areas. So here you see the different elements or the different actions actually where EcoVadis identified a gap or an improvement area in your submitted assessment, where you can improve your sustainability performance as an organization. So again, from policies to actions to reporting, here you only see the policies and actions, but below there's also the reporting improvement areas. Also, you see on the left side, low and medium priority. You also have some improvement areas that are high priority. It does not per se mean that the low priority will give you the lowest points. These are all in correlation with each other. So if you, for example, work on your low priority improvement area from EcoVadis in correlation with the medium and the high one, that will give you by far the highest points, and not per se that only solving or tackling the high priority feedback from EcoVadis will give you a better scoring. It is all interconnected with each other, And it does not per se mean that only the high priority will give you the highest scoring back after improving them. Maybe before moving towards the next slide, obviously we have Laura here as a specialist. Is there anything you would like to add from your side, or would you say this is actually as it is?
I think you covered it quite well, Robert.
Okay. Okay, cool. Moving, and also as a part of EcoVadis scorecard, there is something new to the scorecard, which is their carbon module. But before stepping into that, we want to ask you, have you already measured your carbon footprint as an organization? So I'm gonna launch a poll again to see how many organizations participating today have already calculated their emissions. It's for sure, with COP27 just being done, a very hot topic, the environmental pillar within EcoVadis, and overall, obviously one of the most spoken and well-known pillars within sustainability. So we are very curious how the audience is doing today with measuring their carbon footprint. What do you think, Laura?
Of course, I hope for a lot of yes.
Me too.
No, but as you say, it's a hot topic, but also a very difficult topic, especially if you get scope 3. So let's see.
Yeah, I see some final answers coming in. 130 replies already so far, so thank you so much for your engagement again. I will share the results, where we see that more than 100 companies joining today have already calculated their footprint. That is great to see.
That's good news.
That's good news. And we see still a couple of companies who have not done it or are in the process, could be obviously. So we will move towards the next slide, which is the carbon scorecard. I will click through already. Yeah, let me go back. Yeah. So the carbon scorecard. So here you see a new element within the EcoVadis platform, where you see the 3 different elements within the carbon scorecard: commitments, actions, and reporting. So obviously within the sustainability or the existing scorecard, you have obviously this policies, actions, reporting, and here within the carbon scorecard, you have commitments, actions, and reporting. Know that this scorecard is not part of the rating yet. It's an additional tool for you as an organization to have additional insights into your performance with regards to your emissions. For sure, as you all know, maybe you're also getting pressure from your clients, or you are, for example, inviting your suppliers or key suppliers to calculate their scope 1 and 2 emissions. This tool could be very interesting if you as an organization are calculating and putting your scope 1 and 2 emissions or footprint into the EcoVadis new carbon module, so that your bigger client can calculate their scope 3 emissions. So obviously their scope 3 emissions are your scope 1 and 2 emissions. So that's also one of the reasons why EcoVadis introduced the tool, but overall they want you to have also, again, a visual and practical tool to have more insights into your calculated emissions in line with the GHG protocol. Is there anything, Laura, from your side that you want to add on this topic?
Actually not. No, I think it's indeed good to mention that it's not rated yet, but we do see more and more carbon related questions popping up in the questionnaire. Like every time we open a questionnaire, it's a surprise of what else is added. And we see them mostly being added in the environment pillar, and sometimes also in this procurement one for the mostly related to scope 3. But indeed, it's good to highlight that it's definitely good to start working on it, start considering your scope emissions if you haven't done so already, because it's a big topic, and we're not sure yet if it's going to be rated at some point. Well, most definitely actually it is. So just good to be aware of preparing to be able to disclose your scope emission data. Yeah,
100%. So we highly encourage companies already and our clients to look at the tool. Again, it makes the whole element around carbon footprinting visually very interesting. You get, again, also benchmarked on how you perform as an organization. Plus, obviously, you towards your clients, it shows a very proactive attitude in the field of sustainability on, you as an organization already not per se waiting for the request to be compliant, but taking the lead yourself on, moving already towards this element in the system as well. And as Laura said, for sure, maybe not now, but I'm sure if we're sitting here in a year time or so, that it could be very high chances that it's already an actual part of your EcoVadis scoring system and the rating system as well. As we said in the beginning, Nexio Projects, we are coming towards the Q&A in the webinar, towards the final part. So we still have 16 minutes for your questions. But before we actually dive into the Q&A, Nexio Projects is the certified consultancy partner of EcoVadis. So we just want to take a very short moment to see if there are any organizations that already know, based on today's webinar, it would be great if we could get in touch with the Nexio commercial team afterwards to discuss in a free discovery call if any support services from a Nexio perspective could be interesting. So I'll just launch the poll. I see already a couple of answers coming in. I will not leave it open for too long so that we can directly dive into the Q&A. I see 25 questions already in the Q&A. In the meantime, if this is not something for you, or you're just more informative, please then don't hesitate to already put your questions into the Q&A so that we can tackle them directly. I see some final responses coming in still, so please don't hesitate to still fill in the poll. And then I will close off the poll. Which brings us to the Q&A. I see also still quite some questions in the chat box still. If you have time to put them in the Q&A box, it would help, because we would first tackle them and the questions in that section. If we are out of questions in the Q&A box, obviously we will still move to the chat box and see if there are some additional questions there, but the questions in the Q&A box have priority. So please don't hesitate to move them towards that box. It's always a bit of a puzzle to see. Maybe, if you see already one, Laura.
Yes. Oh, actually, just more of a general one. I see a lot of questions popping in if the meeting is being recorded, or if the slides can be provided afterwards. And the meeting is being recorded and they will be provided afterwards. So yes, don't worry about that. You don't have to write along too much, because you'll get the slides.
Yeah.
And I saw some questions in a Q&A box on the 360 watch. I do have to scroll a bit up and down to gather them together, but I can try to tackle them together as much as possible.
Yeah.
Quickly going over.
Otherwise, I can do one in the meantime, or do you have already one ready?
I have one.
Okay.
A few actually. Yeah. A question on why the 360 watch results would impact an organization if the organization didn't cause the negative news, because that could seem unfair. And here I can best advise to, if you have received a negative impact score from 360 watch, you can definitely reach out to EcoVadis and ask them to review the impact the 360 watch, has had on your score. If you believe that the negative news or the negative impacts cannot be attributed to your company, that there's definitely room for a two-way communication there between your company and EcoVadis. Perhaps you can provide them documents, or that would reduce the negative news, or indeed you can just ask them to consult internally and give some evidence for why this would not be relevant for your company. So there's definitely room for that. So please do so if you believe that you have been negatively impacted without a fair reason. And I saw another question as well about 360 watch, how you can see if it has impacted your score. And actually on the platform, you can see under the 360 watch, I'm just quickly also opening so I can direct you. So under on your EcoVadis platform, under My Performance, you have your scorecards, and there you have like all the pillars, so the environment, labor, ethics, and procurement. And in all these pillars, you have a little topic called 360 watch findings. If there are no findings, there will be none. But if there are findings, you will see the findings there. The news or the publications will be published there by EcoVadis. And then you can see if it has a score impact. So it would basically say, like, it will show you like an arrow like this if there's no score impact, an arrow up, which will be a green arrow if there's a positive impact, and a red arrow down if there will be negative impacts. So that's how you can see if there's any 360 watch findings and whether it has impacted your score and for which pillar as well. And I think there was another question about the 360 watch about why the anti-competitive practices have a longer like lifetime or longer time span than all the other aspects. And actually I read this in the 360 watch document from EcoVadis that typically ethics related cases such as corruption, bribery and anti-competitive practices experience a longer time frame because of the typical lengths of investigations leading to an enforcement decision. So that's the reason why they are typically longer than the other topics. And that's what I've found from at this point. All
right.
Yeah.
I can click on a next one.
Sure.
I see a question from Carrie Morris. So thank you, Carrie, for your question. What is the difference between B Corp and EcoVadis? So very quickly, there are a couple of differences in terms of how they rate the assessments, etc. But maybe the main difference from our perspective, again, we are also there, certified consultancy, but the main difference for organizations is that with B Corp, you are B Corp certified or not. So it is a whole trajectory towards the B Corp certification. And before that, you are not certified on a B Corp platform. And with EcoVadis, the main difference, which it could be a more interesting one for organizations in that sense, is that you can grow scoring-wise and mature in the sustainability maturity curve towards a more complete sustainability score and management system. So obviously your first rating can be a bronze medal, then the year after silver, the year after that high in the silver ratings, then gold, and then you can move throughout the years your way up into the scoring system, where with B Corp you are B Corp certified or not. I hope that answers your question. Laura, do you see a next one? Otherwise, I can also look for one.
I can quickly answer one about the 360 watch again. I see many questions about this topic.
Yeah, as always.
Yeah, multiple people have asked this question, if the 360 watch findings will affect your score multiple years. And yes, this is the case. If like I mentioned previously, if there's a reason that you believe that this is really not fair, or the negative publication should be resolved or anything, there is the possibility to consult with EcoVadis. But in principle, the negative or the positive impact from the 360 watch does count for the time frame that I've given previously.
Yeah.
And also, indeed, I saw another question. I can't find it now anymore, but the maximum positive points is indeed plus 5.25.
Yeah. I see Erika. You stated the carbon scorecard is not part of the rating system yet. Do you know when it will become part of the rating? Not yet, is TBD, to be decided from an EcoVadis perspective. Obviously, we will keep you directly informed when we know this will be part of the scorecard. Let's see. I see very quickly as well a question from Denitsa. How long does the rating last? 1 year. So your rating is valid for 1 year, and then afterwards you still have the medal that you obtained in that previous year, but it will say on the platform that the score is expired. so that yeah, it lasts for 1 year.
Super. See a lot of questions, so I'm trying to scroll through to see if I can combine some of them.
Yeah.
I think I saw some questions on reporting, what we typically advise for to upload for reporting. I don't remember who asked this question. I think it was multiple people. But as we mentioned previously, we typically advise to create what we call a KPI dashboard. And how we envision this normally is that it's a consolidated Excel sheet containing all the KPIs you want to measure, the different entities you're measuring it for, or if it's only one entity, then only one entity, and keeping this updated on a regular basis. That's something that scores quite well for EcoVadis, but we also realize, of course, that it really depends on how you track your data in your company, and if you want to make it like automatic or manual. But we do know that that these consolidated Excel reports work well because they just show the data quite clearly, and you can add a lot of different sheets and tabs for different topics. So that will also limit the amount of documents needed for the reporting questions, because here we see that our clients typically upload a lot of different types of reporting documents, like a sustainability report or just an Excel sheet or other internal mechanisms, and that really adds up to the counting of the documents. While it would really be recommended to try to consolidate this in a bundled document. And also we see that the ESG reports are also typically good proof if they contain data. So that's also something that could be definitely could be considered.
I see a question from Nadia Murphy on, is the carbon data verified to ISO 14064? If not, are there plans for this in the future? Within EcoVadis, we are not, again, 100% sure yet. This could be, that's something that they would integrate. From a Nexio perspective, this is definitely something we can do within with our climate team. Please don't hesitate to contact us if this is something you'll be interested in, and we can continue the conversation one-on-one, Nadia. Let's see. Are there any, or do you have a question pick, Laura? I'm just going on.
No, go for it. Go for it.
Okay. Is there an easy way to check if your supply chain partners have EcoVadis rating, and if so, how? There is. So you can look for companies within the EcoVadis platform. So if, for example, you are in direct contact with your partners from company X, then you can look, and you know that they are on the EcoVadis platform. You can search for this company within the platform and request access to their scorecard. Then this organization has 7 days, 5 to 7 days to accept your request or not. If they don't reply, then you will automatically be accepted. This is also something to take into consideration for all the viewers today. If you don't respond to this request within 7 or 5 working days, then this request will automatically be accepted. So that is something you can look for into the EcoVadis platform. So again, I would search for the company names that you want to look into, and then you should be able to find them on the EcoVadis platform. And if not, you can also invite them to go through a questionnaire. Obviously, how the procurement system works of EcoVadis.
Rob, I see a question on the relationship between EcoVadis and Nexio Projects. Maybe you can quickly repeat on that.
Yeah, of course. So we are legally not linked to EcoVadis. So we are from ourselves as an international sustainability consultancy firm with different teams with different in-house expertise, as we said, on climate topics, energy topics, science-based targets, materiality, B Corp, GRI reporting, integrated reporting, but also we are the certified consultancy partner of EcoVadis. So we have unique insights as their partner. We have calls with their developers, the persons who are responsible for the changes within the EcoVadis questionnaire. We are hosting webinars together with EcoVadis, so we are really their partner to support their client base in the whole process. Obviously, it's a conflict of interest if EcoVadis would support their own clients on their own questionnaire to improve or understand the score or the methodology understanding. So that's where we jump in as their certified consultancy partner. Again, I also saw one question from or somewhere in the Q&A. Is the guarantee, or can we have a guarantee of score improvement if we work with Nexio? No, we are their certified consultancy partner, but obviously you cannot, by working with us, have 100% certainty of an improved score. Otherwise, you could simply buy that. So we are here to educate you through the process and handhold you towards an improved sustainability management system, and as a result, an improved EcoVadis score. If that answers your question. Let's see.
I think I can answer a question on the merging, the merging guidelines and the 55 document limits.
Yeah.
I saw quite some questions on this topic, and I realized it's kind of it is a big topic to only be able to upload 55 documents if the questionnaire is so big with more than 55 questions. So here is like the reason EcoVadis puts this limit basically is because it really tries to stimulate you, stimulate every company to really, make this, create this sustainability management system. Sorry for keep on repeating the word, but really to get this centralized overview of what is happening in your company or in your multiple entities, and also really to have these documents in place that really reflect a lot of information. So for example, your policies should cover a lot of different topics, as well as your procedures, and really to try to steer companies into like the next maturity level in your document structure, basically. So that's why we, for example, for reporting, we really advise to have this KPI dashboards, like this overview of different KPIs for the different entities, the different pillars, so that will not take up too many of your documents in a document limits, and also to really have these centralized policies with different topics that you can just upload per pillar. And the same for actions, even though we realize that for actions, there might be a bit more like loose or individual standing documents. But here's then, if you're able to reduce your amount of documents in the policies and the reporting, there's a bit more room for your actions to upload more of them, to upload more different documents for your for the action part. I'm sorry, I lost my sentence there. But the reason for the 55 document limit is to really move into a new level of maturity and not to have everything all over the place. Basically, that's really EcoVadis reasoning in this sense. And we do realize that it's a tricky one for sure.
I'm also looking at the time, and we want to respect obviously everyone's agenda. So obviously we didn't get to all of your questions, so I will drop my email address into the chat box, not the Q&A box, but into the chat box. If you have some additional questions, please don't hesitate to drop me an email. I will respond as soon as I can, so that we can or set up a one-on-one meeting, or we can further discuss. This is the end of the webinar. Sustainability in motion is our tagline. We want to thank you very much for your attention, for your engagement, and maybe some final words from your side as well, Laura.
No, nothing really to add. Indeed, thanks everyone for your engagement. Thanks Robert as well for co-hosting. I enjoyed it, and I really hope that we shed some additional light on some topics. And if you have indeed any additional questions, please drop Robert an email, and happy to see you in a potential next webinar.
Super. Have a wonderful day. Thank you very much.